I've spent the past 4 months studying in the San Francisco Bay Area in California as part of my freshman year program in college. My campus was in the eastern half of the bustling city of Oakland, directly across the bay from San Francisco. If you're from the East Coast, I'd say that the relationship between Newark, New Jersey and New York City is kind of akin to the relationship between Oakland and San Francisco, basically the younger sister city. Being a university student without a car and living in a heavily urban area, I naturally gravitated to public transit as my way of getting around the Bay. The San Francisco Bay Area and its surrounding areas are notorious for the lack of unification between transit agencies. The Metropolitan Transportation Commission, one of the overarching authorities that runs the Clipper card, reports that there are 27 recognized Bay Area transit operators, and a multitude of others providing private and paratransit operations. One of these is the long-standing Bay Area Rapid Transit, or BART. BART is the Bay's primary rapid transit operator, creating strong links between the San Francisco Peninsula and the East Bay, including Oakland, Richmond, Antioch, Dublin Pleasanton, and Berryessa North San Jose, with an eventual extension to downtown San Jose. For today's video, that'll be the focus: the uprising of BART and how it managed to transform its public image. BART is a fairly young transit system in comparison to East Coast systems. It was first envisioned in 1957 by the San Francisco Bay Area Rapid Transit District, or the SF-BART District, a union of 5 Bay Area counties: Alameda, Contra Costa, San Francisco, San Mateo, and Marin counties. Santa Clara County, which is where San Jose is, was invited but refused to participate, and San Mateo County later left the district on the basis of voter concerns. In 1972, passenger service began after almost a decade of construction, including aerial structures in the East Bay and Oakland, subway-like tunnels in San Francisco, and the Trans-Bay Tube, which brings BART to and from San Francisco and Oakland. Service at that point was between Daly City, Concord, Richmond, and Fremont. BART was one of the first systems to automate many of its signals and operations, which led to controversy with incidents like the Fremont Flyer. A failure of the ATC, or Automated Train Control System, led a train to fly off the elevated end of the terminating Fremont station, injuring dozens. After 4 years, BART was eventually able to weed out the major issues. One major turning point in BART's history was the Loma Prieta earthquake in 1989, which decimated the vehicular Bay Bridge, the primary crossing between San Francisco and Oakland, as well as the Nimitz Freeway in Oakland. BART was cleared for operation within 5 hours of the earthquake, acting as the primary link between the East Bay and San Francisco while the roadways were repaired. Ridership levels jumped by 17% and did not fall again until the COVID-19 pandemic. Mirroring Bay Area growth, BART grew rapidly over the next few decades. BART eventually needed extensions, the first of which being northward towards Pittsburgh Bay Point for the Yellow Line, and an extension past Daly City on the San Francisco Peninsula to Colma. In 1997, the Dublin Pleasanton branch was created, adding a new line to the system for the first time since its creation. The agency's next 2 expansions created crossroads with air travel, connecting BART to San Francisco International Airport near San Bruno, and Oakland International Airport via an automated guideway transit spur line known as the Oakland Airport Connector. In 2018, BART was extended westward to Antioch, past Pittsburgh Bay Point via the E-BART, a diesel multiple-unit railroad using conventional infrastructure as opposed to the electric third rail BART's unique gauge. BART's most recent and most impactful extension is known as the Silicon Valley BART extension, which brings BART service down the East Bay through Fremont, Milpitas, Berryessa, and eventually downtown San Jose. BART served the Bay well until about 2015, but as gas prices fell, rideshare companies like Uber and Lyft became prominent, and the entire country experienced a turn away from mass transit. BART's ridership fell sharply over the next 4 years, experiencing a 4% ridership drop per year. The dropping ridership hit a new low when the COVID-19 pandemic entered the playing field. California's aggressive policies to eliminate mass infection resulted in record numbers of people staying home from work and school, eliminating the need for public transit, as was seen across the entire country and entire world. As a result, ridership dropped by over 95%, forcing BART to run razor-thin services during the day and night. Additional entrances at larger stations like 19th Street and 12th Street Oakland City Center were closed to improve safety while trains were deserted. But even during the years of 2020 and 2021, BART still had excess funds to operate trains for the foreseeable future, and many of its capital improvement projects had already been funded. But from 2021 and onwards, BART took hit after hit. The pandemic exposed the system's reliance on commuters, as downtown San Francisco stations like Embarcadero, Montgomery, and Powell saw just 28% of their pre-pandemic ridership. The worldwide economic downturn caused by the pandemic saw many low-income households become homeless, breaking new records for the Bay's already bloated homeless population. Since shelters and homeless centers had to be restricted or shut down for distancing purposes, homeless and mentally affected people made their way onto the second safest place they could find, BART. With a lack of security forces and empty trains, homeless and mentally affected people made their way onto the BART trains, occupying the legacy cars. As workplaces began to open up again and regular life made somewhat of a resurgence, regular riders were turned away from the BART for safety reasons, both on a health front but also a personal safety front. With roadways largely empty because of the work-from-home culture of the Bay Area, these commuters made decisions to drive instead, leaving the BART empty well into 2022 and 2023. Empty fare gates forced BART to continue its reduced service and forced the transit authority to dip into emergency funds and federal financial aid. One interesting point to bring up about BART is its relatively high fare box recovery rate. BART was one of the most profitable systems pre-pandemic, largely due to the fact that its ridership profits covered a large portion of the operational expenses. This is unusual for a public transit agency. Systems like the New York City subway and the T in Boston cover most of their expenses through government grants. As such, BART took hard hits financially when their ridership dropped during the pandemic. With BART facing a shallow emergency fund, dangerous riding conditions, and dilapidated equipment due to its lack of funding, action had to be taken to prevent BART from falling further into dismay. BART's resurgence, in my eyes, is attributed largely to the quick action taken by officials to make it a safe way to travel the Bay again. One of their first moves was to reduce train lengths and increase police presence in stations and on trains. This meant reducing 10-car services to 8 and 6-car services on most lines, still in effect today. A smaller train means less cars to cover for an officer, and less operating costs. BART also began upgrading and renovating many of its stations, including the core stations in downtown Oakland and downtown San Francisco. Newer, cleaner stations and improved lighting, as well as additional security, helped shoo away any lurking dangers to passengers. One of the more recent improvements they made was a full reset and refresh of their fleet. With reduced train lengths, BART took the opportunity in the last year to completely overhaul their fleet, bringing in their new Fleet of the Future trains and retiring their legacy fleet entirely. These new trains, fitted with LED information screens, audible announcements, and bright lights, helped make the trains feel and seem far safer. BART's latest effort for enhanced security and safety is the addition of new reinforced full-body length fare gates. They've been tested at stations in Oakland, Hayward, as well as the San Francisco International Airport, and have been proven to reduce fare evasion rates. Not only does this result in additional revenue for BART, but since much of the troublemakers on BART evade the gates, enforced fare gates help keep out the dangers and ensure that the system stays safer. BART of 2024 is night and day compared to how it was just a few years ago. Seeing videos of the system in 2022 is a stark difference to the BART of the future, and it is largely down to the action that the officials took to secure the system. While BART is still struggling in terms of passenger recovery, there has been a large uptick in the ridership in recent months. I, for one, took BART at almost all hours of the day, including past 9 and 10 p.m. on weekend nights. While the trains are by no means packed, there are a considerable number of riders, whether it be travelers from San Francisco International Airport or Oakland International Airport, commuters, or just people taking it to run errands and do things like I did. At no point did I ever feel unsafe or uneasy, and a large part of that is down to the bright lighting, emergency assistance tools, and cleanliness of the systems. Even the stations in the middle of Oakland and San Francisco were bustling at the after-dinner hours of the night. BART's complete and total refresh of their system has absolutely been game-changing. While their ridership is still considerably below pre-pandemic numbers, people are beginning to ditch the highway for the railway, and it's visible in the number of people on the trains. Even in the short 4-month stint that I had in the Golden State, I noticed a clear increase in the number of BART users, as trains became more and more crowded, but never uncomfortably packed. I also foresee BART getting considerably more popular once there's a direct connection to San Jose from the East Bay. I think that's all that is missing at this point from BART. BART's refresh is absolutely something hopeful, and I'm very optimistic that as more and more people travel to San Francisco or the East Bay, they'll choose BART instead of suffering through the endless Bay Area highway traffic. Thanks for watching today's video. This is one of the few videos I have lined up about California transit, reflecting on my 4-month experience where I almost entirely depended on it. I thought it was really important to share the revision that BART has experienced, especially considering the stories you'll hear in the news about BART. If you enjoyed the video, please like and subscribe to continue learning more about the best public transit has to offer. If you've taken BART, let me know your thoughts about BART's Resurgence efforts in the comments below. Once again, thanks for stopping by and have a fantastic day.